So welcome everybody to our Creator Series highlight for the Decentraland DAO. Each month we interview different grantees for our grants program and hope that all of you here in the community get inspired, learn something, and hopefully start engaging and becoming a more active member of our Decentraland DAO community. For this month's highlight, we're here with awesome members of Angzaar, Lastrum, Mease, and Acrhonomous. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing all of those good?
Yeah, super close. You did a great job. Arconomous.
Arconomous. Well, thank you guys all so very much for being here today. And before we dive in, I also want to introduce Fede and myself, Rectilians, and we are part of the facilitation squad, also supported by the Decentraland DAO. Welcome, Fede.
Hey, Nat. Hey, everyone. Nice to be here.
Awesome. So with that, let's dive on in. And what I usually like to start these with, especially for people who've never, necessarily heard of your project or even Decentraland or the journey into Decentraland, I'd love to hear a little bit about how each of you guys found out about Decentraland. And also I know there's a history with Last Slice Collective. Maybe talk a little bit about that as well and how all you guys first came into Decentraland. So whoever wants to start, just jump on in.
Meese, why don't you start? Because Alex and I kind of met like 4 years ago at the beginning of Decentraland.
Yeah, so I first got into Decentraland back in like early 2001. And I started getting it. So how I got in the rabbit hole is I got into crypto back in like 2020 towards the end. And I was interested in the technology, and I just like every single day I just kept studying and studying and studying. And so I started with just like cryptos, and then I kind of branched off into newer cryptos and different ones. And then I got into NFTs shortly after. I think it was like March or February. So I did photography back then, and like for me, Web3 was a huge deal. I was hearing about artists that were selling digital versions of their work, and especially and showing them off in the metaverse. And so for me, I hit NFTs, and I was like, okay, well, they get these digital artworks, okay, what do you do with them? They sit in a wallet. There really wasn't a lot of galleries or digital, different things back then. And so Decentraland was one of those places. And so I hopped in I think it was like early March of 21, and I loved it. It reminded me of some of the video games that I played from back in the day, like 20 something years ago. And the community was really awesome, and it was very accessible. And so for me, that's kind of how I got into Decentraland. And I really, as an artist, I really wanted to get my work into a gallery and to show it off and to, do it in 3D, not just 2D. So that's how I got into it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think I got in a little bit before that, but that was around the time that I started diving into different ways as well. So yeah, I guess Lastrum and Acrhonomous.
Sure, I'll go next since Lastrum, I feel like you got the spicy stuff with Last Slice, but so I fell down the rabbit hole for crypto and Decentraland, both at the same time at the very end of 2017 on Reddit. Twitter wasn't really the place to have the conversations about crypto back then. So I met a lot of people that were talking about virtual worlds, and one of them, I believe they're the first, still one of the biggest around, is Decentraland, where we're at now. And I met someone on there who was looking for an architect, and my background is in architecture. Actually, at the time, I was finishing my graduate program in architecture here in Arizona. And I was like, I can do that. I've always been a gamer. I grew up on games and still play them to this day for inspiration. But so it was always a natural overlap, this architectural component from what I was studying and then bringing it into the virtual space where all my interests were. And unfortunately, that project, there was a lot of learning that went all around. It was very early days. There wasn't much in Decentraland at all. But shortly after that, I met Lastrum through another perspective project. So I think we actually go back 5 years now, at least. But we kind of rekindled our relationship a couple years back through Last Slice. And Lastrum reached out again and invited me to join, and had a lot of projects coming through. So it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, and we've just kind of gone nonstop ever since. And I'm really excited about this project because this is really our opportunity to give back to the community, but also to do something for ourselves that we've been talking about for so long, that we've wanted to see brought to Decentraland. So it's just so cool that, all these years have passed and now here we are doing it. So that's sort of the short, long history.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and Lastrum.
Yeah, so kind of picking up where Alex left off is we met 5 years ago. I was in Decentraland after Ready Player One. I don't know how I came across Decentraland, the world, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I'm come from a real estate background in real life, and started to flip land on the marketplace. It was me and DCL blogger Maddie from Medikey, and we were flipping land to each other for 75,000 mana a parcel. And back then that was a couple $100 going up to like $1,500. And I'm sitting there doing commercial real estate, doing multi-million-dollar real deals, and I'm making like $500 in 5 minutes flipping this virtual piece of land. And everyone would come around and be like, what are you doing? This is just ridiculous, looking at the map atlas at the time. And that's pretty much all we were doing back then. And so I was a sort of techno hobbyist, sort of figure it out, break things and put it back together person. I've taught myself how to program over the years. And so I saw there's an SDK coming out, and I was like, wow, maybe I can learn how to program in here and see my stuff come to life in 3D space versus always working on a website or a Macromedia Flash game. I used to program those and do something in 3D. And so I started playing around in the space in 2019 with private land from a guy named Bitcoin Pie and some other people. And they were just giving land to people for free to develop on. And saying you could use it, and it was deployment rights. And then heard the casino was coming in, and actually linked up with Sauce and Miles, and was like, yeah, I can program a blackjack. Like I programmed, a craps game in a different software platform. I love, casinos and the idea of them. So let's do it. And I somehow stumbled across Acrhonomous, and I was like, hey, can you do this? Can you model the blackjack table? I was like, I'll program it. So we got down we're just hobbyists at this point, figuring it out. And DG at the time was like running and gunning. I know they still are, but like a million times faster back then. And we just couldn't hit their deadline for delivering the blackjack table, because we were still sort of like, are we doing this? Are we not doing this? And so that's kind of how Acrhonomous and I got together, and we kind of stayed around in the same space. And I eventually formed Last Slice back in 2021 of April as an NFT project to learn how to build and deploy content in Decentraland. Because at that time, seeing it go from the public beta launch in 2020 until 2021, there wasn't a lot of content. So I wanted to help people break down those barriers of using code more easily and using Blender and putting things in the scene. So Last Slice was an educational project. It turned out to be very successful. It turned out, there was no idea behind it at all. It was like, hey, I want to learn how to program an NFT contract on Ethereum. So let's do it. And that's how I learn. And that's how I do. And that's how I give back, is I got to do it first. And so I took the risk, sold 50 NFTs. I think it took like 18 days. I was like, everything else was selling out. I didn't know what this was. Created a Discord, never had it, never had a Twitter. So I learned by doing, and then we just kept getting more people involved with NFT trading and learning about Decentraland and building things. And we kept building our network of people to the point where outside influences like Samsung and agencies that rep those brands came to us and said, wow, you guys are doing like really cool stuff. Do you want to get hired to build for us in the metaverse? And that's how it took off with Samsung, and all of 2022 building for brands and honing in our skills and adding more people to the sort of development group within Last Slice as a collective social club. And so that brings it right where we are now, and following up with Alex saying, this is a culmination of everything we've learned over the past few years and what we've wanted to do. We've been building for other brands and learning and experimenting and improving on our skill sets. but also understanding as metaverse natives what we want and other people might want in this space. So now we get a chance to take all of those learnings, all of those skills, all of those wants and desires, and put it into a mega space that we have control over. Not to say we didn't like working with brands, but we are guiding the creative and the narrative and the decision making and what works. And we have a lot more flexibility and we're a lot more nimble on what can and can't happen in the scene. So we're beyond. This is again the culmination, the climax of our creativity, of our working together in the past 5 years. And so we're beyond excited to share all of this with the community and get everybody involved.
Yeah, that's exactly why when I first saw this, and I was like, you guys are getting to finally build out your dream. It's wonderful to see, and from the energy that you guys shared in the in-world meetup, I was like, oh my God, you guys would be perfect to feature and dive even deeper. And it's funny that I found out first about you through your educational videos, and then I first found out about Decentraland through DCL Blogger, so early meta key holder, and yeah, so it's funny how things like connect. So you were flipping land way back then, damn.
Oh yeah, I wish. Yeah, I wish I had some of that mana. I mean, mana was 17 cents back then. It was damn. 10 cents. Yeah.
Oh man. Mm-hmm. Well, I have other questions and stuff, but for now, I think I'll pass it on to you guys and have you guys possibly share and showcase some of the things you've been working on since we last met up here, or whatever way you want to take it. Let's do it.
Yeah, so we have a rough outline just quickly, and it's more on our end to just sort of explain. Cool. But there's a ton of things that happen throughout the scene. So just anybody listening high level, we are a development studio, independent of Decentraland Foundation. We are a community of members building in the space. We asked for a grant of $240,000 to take over the deployment rights, not the ownership rights, the deployment rights of a plaza in Decentraland, because there are 9 plazas, 5 of them are replicated of 4 different scenes. So there's a lot of redundancy and unused land, which is 400 parcels per plaza. So we said, let's be creative and let's see what happens when you give a group like us or another development studio, maybe Polygonal Mind, Low Poly Models, Dapcraft, whoever wants to work in the space, and let's go for it. We've never asked for a grant. We've always got our projects from outside sources. So we went for it and we put our reputation on the line and what we can do. And we've got 99% to 1% yay, 12.8 million votes, I believe, back when I think the threshold was 9 million. And so we got the ability to work on this project in this plaza. And the project is to bring the marketplace functionality of our websites into the world. And we feel like removing barriers, whether they're learning barriers or they're actual physical barriers, like having to have a different tab open to purchase content for the world you're using, we want that to happen in world. So instead of having market.decentraland.org open and buying wearables and searching and browsing NFTs from Decentraland, do that in the world. That makes it more immersive. That makes it feel like a more complete thought, a more complete platform, and that will hopefully retain and bring more people on board. So we have 3 legs to the project, one of them being the marketplace functionality. The other one is questing in a large MMO. And then the third one is integrating with the community. So quickly, the first branch is the marketplace. And so we have 8 storefronts in a radial fashion in this central hub here. And each little storefront represents something to do with the Decentraland marketplaces. And so we have land purchases, name purchases, wearable purchases, emote purchases. So all 4 of those NFT types you can buy inside the world. You do not need a different browser tab or anywhere else or to break your immersive, virtual experience to purchase and integrate and use the items that you're actually using in the platform. So that's a quick high level first leg. And with that being said, there's a lot of things that we get excited about, and we want to sort of take it from the top down. If you could refresh your screen, little things in the scene like this, which you're about to see the loading in. When you load in really high, and you actually land on one of these podiums. And so it's a little teeny feature that might be subtle or might actually be noticeable. But things like this, we're always paying attention to from a UX perspective. And just keep in mind, none of us have done this professionally. We don't come from AAA game studios. We are just gamers and nerds and metaverse natives. And we know what we think would work well. And we have the opportunity to build that out. And so when you land in here, for everybody watching, just notice how when you come in, you're going to land on a podium. And it just feels fun. It feels like Wreck-It Ralph. It feels just different, right? And just a subtle little thing like that. And I just wanted to highlight that. So this is how you enter the hub. We have a navigational tool to sort of get back to the marketplace functionality. So on the top right, we have an icon, and we're always updating this. So please keep in mind, keep in mind all of the UI, the stylistic design is in flux. But we are working on what information is most visible and important to players from our gaming experience. So immediately the map tab is open, and this is a bird's eye view of the entire plaza with waypoints for you to navigate to.
Sorry.
No, totally. So we started calling it fast traveling, but we're gonna, the theme of this is desert meets dystopian. Dunepunk meets cyberpunk. So if what you just did right there, if you notice another subtle cue, if you want to fast travel somewhere else, you'll notice we have a fast travel animation, but we also are going to have some sound. So if you want to go back into that central hub where there's those 8 stores, you can click on the center and you'll notice you get an animation. It's not an immediate fast travel teleport because we want people to experience the scene, experience the creativity, and not be so ADD with things. And so little things like that we're adding to the scene all the time.
No, I love that. I mean, already I noticed a lot of changes and updates and new builds. It's really great. How we were talking about the different stores. Want to take us there for a little bit and share?
Sure. So
I'll follow you.
Let's walk to the left and let's go into the wearable store. And again, we're going to work on all the banners and names, but they all have little signs out front. And so when you walk in here, we're again mixing and clashing Dunepunk technology with cyberpunk technology. And this is, again, the marketplace feature of the wearables. So the UI on the bottom screen for filtering is still under development, but we have 8 pods here that are basically search results. If you're on the marketplace website, you have icons for the types of wearables. And now we have 3D renderings of those. So we have images you can pop up and get more detail. You can look at each individual wearable and you can rotate it if you want with the E and F key by hovering over the object. You should be able to ENF them. Try on the pod. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
So, this is feel like you're at a virtual shopping store. Ready Player One. He's going down the aisles looking for things. So these are just the immediate feature search results for just listed primary items with no rarity, no category selected, and unisex. So there's a mixture of 2D and 3D happening here. The 2D are your filter options as if you were on the marketplace. So you can click the just listed button and you can choose cheapest if you'd like. And when you do that, you're going to get a refresh search results. You get a notification from the top that says we're loading wearables. Again, under development, the placement and things like that, the style, but we have a placeholder for that. And then you get your search results. These are the cheapest. Also, again, subtle touches. If you notice, all of the tubes have changed to green, and that matches the rarity of the wearable as well.
Cool. That's very nice. Was that recent too, or was that always there and I just didn't notice that?
Yeah, that was always there. Again, there's so many little things that you might not notice. Again, if you click on the the rarity buttons, these are the filter options. You can go rarity, and now you can choose cheapest and unique if you'd like, or mythic, or you can do multiple at once, just like you can from the marketplace website.
Very cool. Yeah, I was in here before. This is super addictive and fun to play around here just to see. Because a lot of times, like in the wearable, the current way you can find them, it's kind of like overwhelming a little bit. Like there's so much, and just like the constant scrolling, and then you have to click into it to really see it. And then, like seems like a much more fluid, fun, engaging way overall.
Mease, Acrhonomous, do you have anything to input before we continue on?
I have some things, but I'll wait till we get more into the art side because it seems like we're talking function. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, so again, this is the department store level of searching wearables, right? So we are replicating all of that other browser tab functionality. And if you want to purchase something, there's a bug right now with on hovering. The big blue button is the button to purchase on the pod right there. On the little right side of the
okay.
by the info. Yeah, so you should see there's info right there of how much mana it is, rarity, supply, the type, and
I
the
see
thing.
the button there. Okay. Okay.
And if it's 0 mana, the Decentraland marketplace is not going to actually allow that because they pay for the gas. So you'll notice you have a MetaMask pending transaction right now if you want to cancel it.
Yeah, I'm canceling it real quick. Okay, there we go.
There you go. Yep. So then the close button in the top right. Okay. So yeah. So that's basically how you purchase it, and it's right there. So you don't have to go to another browser tab or anything.
That's awesome. And also another thing, I think you mentioned this before, like you guys are not taking any cuts of any of these sales. It's still the same, correct?
Yeah, that's what's awesome is we're using, again, beauty of open source and blockchain technology. We're using the same pipeline highway transport functionality as the marketplace website is. So it's literally what you could do is when you click the buy button on here and you get your MetaMask pop up, you'll get like a message signature. You can find that same item on the marketplace website and try to buy it, and you'll get the same marketplace signature. So the zero items aren't going to show up because Decentraland, again, we're using their transport. They don't cover the cost of gas for free items or anything under 1 mana, which is a different decision. So yes, we don't take any fees. This is just literally replicating the marketplace features inside the virtual world.
And just to add, I mean, we're not currently taking fees anywhere. We do have, we've had internal talks of how to possibly monetize this to cover future development and such, but currently there are no implementations whatsoever that will extract any community funds.
Oh, from your own wearables, I'd totally buy one of those.
Collection,
right?
Yeah, that would be different, but for sure. So great point, Acrhonomous. We're not taking any money outside of the grant funding. So this is the wearables. Again, the last thing, the arrow keys on the bottom of your 2D screen, those are pagination. So if you want to go to the next 8, that's how you change.
Oh, cool.
And sometimes, Acrhonomous had a good point. I don't do this, but they do particularly. They like to see items that are not on sale. So if you change your categories or your rarities to say unique, and just do unique, right? And uncheck the epic and rare. So you can uncheck and click unique. And then there's a money sign. Yeah, click on that.
Oh, it's not letting me.
Oh, maybe we hit it.
Oh, there it is. It's just a little slow. There, it's coming.
Oh, okay. There's a money symbol on the 2D UI. It's a slider a little to the left by the pagination buttons. If you click on that should show you the ones that are not for sale.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, so our economist was saying sometimes these 1 of 1s or these 1 of 10s are never for sale, but they're really cool to look at. So you want to check them out. So we have that feature too.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I have a bunch of wearables I'm never going to sell.
No, it's awesome. Last part on the wearables. Again, this is the department store. The upstairs portion is going to be a private instanced version where it's almost like a locker room. So you can try on different items to a single avatar and purchase them all at once.
Oh, wicked. Nice. I mean, it's very cool. I mean, I was just thinking of like, you could always rent out the spaces for, obviously for wearable drops and like cool, like, parties upstairs up here, or, I mean, you have all this cool event spaces for people to use as well. Is that going to be, I think you, in the past, I mean, that's a total side note, but are people going to still be able to do that to like rent out the events area, or is that going to be all open as well?
Yeah, no, totally. So, like I said, we have three legs to the project. We've got the marketplace features, the questing and gamification, and the MMO side, and then the community features. So, I love to highlight that type of community feature in like the third portion when we get there.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so this is one of the 8 stores. So, if you want to go into another store here, we can walk out to the left and let's go into the emote store. Again, similar concept. You walk in, you have a 2D UI filtering screen. And if you should see all of these models, we're working on rendering them.
Oh, cool.
And if you, I believe if you click them, right, they will play. So, yep, turn your filter back to on and
let's say newest. Let's see what's going on
sure.
in the market.
And you can click all of them at once too, which is pretty fun.
Oh,
and
how do you
can
do
click
that?
from pretty far away. So just like look at one of the back ones and just try and click on it from your character. You might have to get a little closer because you're in third person.
Oh, but if I'm in first person, it's a little.
Yeah,
it should be a little closer in first person.
These are all the.
Yeah, you might have to click them. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that one is a little different. Oh, that's
so
cool.
they'll all play. Yeah.
That's so cool. I know emotes are definitely one of my favorite areas to hang out in right now. Just like buying different emotes and watching all the amazing different creativity people are coming up with their emotes. Look at those flips. Are you guys gonna plan on doing emotes as well of your own?
Yes, we're going to do some as part of the MMO portion of this. So, again, this is we're here for the community. We're building this for us and for the community. We thought this would be a fun way to, we're building out the interior of these spaces, but to do these in these pod formations and have these emotes show up and be able to visualize them. The website is really cool that you can do it in 3D, but it's even cooler in here to see them on an avatar. And then, throughout the development process, what's fun is Mease was saying, hey, what if we went upstairs and had like a room that you could change the entire color in and then see the emote on the person as like a almost like a step and repeat or a backdrop or something like that. So I don't think the trending options work for the emotes. We're still testing the different APIs. So that 2D UI category for trending should probably be gone. But if you want to do newest or names or cheapest, so these should be A to Z, starting with numbers, obviously. And so, this is the emote store. It's pretty simple. Again, straightforward. If you click on the black square in front of the thing, it actually has the image there. It'll bring up a little bit more information about it. You can actually go to the marketplace website or purchase it here or close this. So that would be store 2. So we've got the wearables and emotes covered. If we want to back out and let's go back to the right and let's go all the way over here to the land and the names store. So we'll go on the left side over here. And we thought about this being more of like a stock exchange, sort of like a casino, high-paced environment of trading, etc. So what you have is this massive computer screen in front of you, and if you click on any of the names, again, we're trying to the UX. If you get a little bit closer, your UI will show up. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Cool.
So basically, if you're inside the sofas, you'll have your 2D UI for searching. And then when you click on a name, its info comes up, and then the big blue button in the middle says if you want to buy it. And you probably, I don't know, you might have 10,000 mana. That's a crazy name. Like 59,000 mana. That's crazy names, though. There's not much detail to them, right? It's kind of the name and the price. That's what it is. But again, we're mixing L1 technology or L1 NFTs inside the world, right? So we want everything to happen here, whether it's L1, L2, whatever. Yeah, so this one is like, imagine you're at a casino or you're at like a sports book at a casino where there's a ton of screens and there's a bunch of sofas and you're sitting there watching with other random people watching these trades happen. And so it just felt like, land and names are both L1s. NFTs versus wearables and emotes. So we thought combining them in the similar fashion of they are more for trading, right? Yeah. Wearables and emotes are a little bit more personalized. I should say a lot more personalized. These are more transactional. So we wanted it to feel transactional.
So for the land one, is that a whole nother room you're saying, or it's
It's on the other side, actually. So if you just want to walk around the other side, and then you'll be on the land side, in the same store there.
Oh, in here?
Yeah, they're just
the
back
other
to back.
side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we actually decided to include them in the same area, and the reason is because names and land both have some land functionality now that we have the NFT or DCL worlds.
Definitely, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to put them, right next to each other, so that people could purchase and have those options right next to each other.
Yeah. So, Fractalians, if you walk back towards out of the sofas and come back in, let's see.
There it goes.
I think.
Oh, I'm on the wrong side still. It's saying loading names.
No, go to the name store. We're working on the triggers because the SDK6 is not right. So go to the name side and walk in the couch area and walk out of it.
Okay. So
and go into it and then kind of walk out of it.
Okay.
There you go.
Like walk outside. Oh, there it is. Loading.
There you
land.
go. Now go to the land. Yes.
Cool.
There we go. It should show up.
One thing to add too about the building interiors is that the architecture is still as much of a work in progress as anything else in the scene. So most of the interiors are the same currently, but we do have plans to do unique interior design layouts and continue to refine them with time. So right now you'll see that this version that we're in is a double height interior, and the emotes and wearables stores were single height interiors. So currently we have these two typologies to work with, but we'll continue to diversify them per DApp area as we go. So this is something to keep in mind too.
And the architecture, I mean, I lived in Santa Fe for a long time, reminds me of like the Santa Fe style structure, also the Pueblo, the beams and everything, and temples as well, like obviously like from Mexico and things like that. What inspired the actual look of this?
I love to hear that, because honestly, a lot of that did inspire it. I live in Tucson, Arizona, in this historic community area, and there's a lot of Pueblo and old, like rammed earth housing here. And, I go on walks with my dog every day, and a lot of these forms are around in my neighborhood, but it just felt, it feels so appropriate living here in the desert to have these like thick thermal massive insulating walls. And I know that, the metaverse, obviously we don't have to worry about air conditioning systems and all these real factors of reality. But I think bringing that language of the desert into here to make it feel the same way is really important. And just hope to continue to build off of that language that we have. So
cool. And I love, again, we talked about, I think last time we talked about it very much feels like the central area of Burning Man as well, like the tent area and all the cool elements, and the origins of Decentraland is in the desert in Burning Man. So it makes me think of that
totally.
a lot.
You know what, Fractalians, if you can just refresh for me, it looks like you found a bug with our trigger right there for the land. That's interesting. And I definitely want you to experience it. But while it's loading, just to recap, we've gone through 4 of the 8 stores. The other 4 stores are not specific to Decentraland. So we've done the wearables, names, land, and emotes. The other 4 stores are going to be towards the second leg of our project, which is more of the MMO and questing. And that's going to be we have a resource center that is going to have events for Decentraland, places for Decentraland, heat maps, info for Decentraland, info for the DAO, the proposals, things like that.
I was going to ask about that. I read about it. Says how you have plans for people to actually vote in there, right? Is that the...
Yeah. Yep. That is something we want to tackle. And so, going through this grantee process has been very interesting, because there's basically 3 legs to Decentraland. There's the foundation, the DAO, and then the community. And so sometimes not all are in sync. And this is a scenario where the foundation and the DAO want to have a DAO building. What is going on?
I don't know. I'm having... No, go ahead. I'll keep loading. I love what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So the foundation and the DAO want to have a DAO building, but they're not recognizing that we have a DAO partition or DAO store inside our scene. So there's not always the best communication between all three branches of Decentraland, and I think we can do better with that. And I don't know how. It's just I think we should, because if you're giving a team $250,000 to work on something that has the functionality of what you want, do you want to have it in there or have your own standalone? And maybe there's another grant for it. I think there might be, actually. So it's interesting. We want to push the functionality as much as we can here. If it's duplicated elsewhere, okay, but we're definitely going to try to make the most of it here. This is, again, I just want to show you, this is the land, similar concept as the names. So when you click on info, it'll bring up the info about the parcel. And we're still working on, if it's going to be near a road or other features of the parcels, nice. But you can click on them, and then you can actually click on the scene and jump in if you'd like.
That's so cool. Yeah, because this I hadn't seen before, this part, finally.
Yeah. So very cool.
That's very cool.
So yeah, getting back to what we're talking about, we've gone through the 4 stores of the marketplace. Then we're going to have a 5th store, the resource center. And then we're going to have other stores that are part of the MMO. And one of them being a cantina, another one being a music center where we're partnering and integrating Audius, the decentralized music platform. We're working on all kinds of different functionality of having, curated playlists by ourselves, having people upload their own, having Audius put in their own playlist, all kinds of different types of content. This little NPC right here, he is standing outside the smith. We don't know, it's a working name yet, like a smithery, a blacksmith shop, again, for the MMO portion, the gamification. A lot of crafting and materializing and things like that will happen in this location. Continuing around our little tour, again, as I mentioned, the music, you can notice here, as what Acrhonomous was talking about, a 2-story versus 1-story interior build out. This one, again, is templatized as a 2-story. Maybe it'll be a 1-story. We're still working on building out and partitioning the interiors of all of these storefronts. So this one is the music. Again, just as an example, you can come in and click on either one of these plane shapes here that has the artist and music info for that song, that track. Very cool. So we'll build this out to be much larger. Continuing on, we have over here, let's see what we have. And we just added this. We're testing this NPC. His walk animation is not working.
That looks really cool,
though. Yeah. So we're testing stuff. So if you see some random ghost things happening in this test world server, something is going to happen. This would be
like seeing a black cat in the Matrix. Sorry about that.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Or the white rabbit,
Deja vu.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is the cantina. Again, think of inspiration from Star Wars, from any dystopian movie that has like a commonplace gathering area surrounded by, a social hub of some sort, whether it's the cantina or something. This is what that's going to be, and it's going to be really fun. So a lot of quests will start from here, from talking to people. There will be other NPCs and CPCs and all kinds of other characters to interact with and hang out with in here. So this is the cantina, and some CPC just bumped into me. The resource center, yep. Again, this is DAO, places, events, and documents. And then the last one we have is the post office. So we're going to have an entire messaging platform and system in here. So you can leave people messages. Maybe you'll get messages that are from quests or things like that. So an entire messaging system will be in here. And that should round out our entire trip around the 8 storefronts and the first leg of our grant.
That also reminds me a lot of Burning Man. They have those posts when you lose people or you try to find them, old school.
Yep.
I went to Burning Man first time a long time ago, and everyone would just post, "Here I am." You have to look on this giant board of notes for usually you wouldn't find anybody, but it was still a fun thing. And I saw oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I saw on the outside, on the outskirts, there's a couple new deployed builds that were not there just a little while ago.
We'll get there.
Cool.
Yep, cool. We're going to get there right now. So
awesome.
I wanted to tag one last feature is the CPCs, the clone player character that we've coined. You'll notice these people walking around, these are clones of whatever their last update of their wearable. So we have this crazy cool machine here. And this is the clone machine. And what you can do as a player with a Web3 wallet, you can come in and you can clone yourself. And you can give yourself prompts. You can post social media links. We're going to have emotes being triggered on the beginning or ending of your prompts. And then you can give it a path, a walking path around the scene to go and traverse. And so this is a fun representation of your digital self when you're not in the world, or maybe when you are in the world, to either highlight yourself, highlight a project, highlight an event. Tons of functionality that we're building into these that will basically be like a walking marketing tool. And so we've named them CPC dash whatever name so that people understand that these aren't non-player characters, they're cloned player characters. So they have some human element to them. So everyone walking around has been given a set pathway, and the ones that have this icon over them have a prompt or a social media link. So if I actually click on this person, they're going to stop. Yeah. And I'm going to talk to them, and they have this is a prompt again by a human, and I'm getting pushed out of the way by somebody else. And so let me bring him up, and I'm going to click on him. And so that's all he has to say. But if you notice, they have a little icon above their head, and that is the link. And so I can click on his link and go to buffalomusic.com. So
that's Buffalo. I didn't know if it was actually him. He's awesome. I've interviewed him a long time ago. He's so cool.
Yeah, so you can prompt people, or you can have them go to external links. And this guy's going to bump into me. So that's a quick overview. Just one last thing with it. I'll just show you how easy it is to add prompts or add pathways. So right now, if I wanted my CPC, I would just walk around and hit this waypoint button, and you'll notice my pathways are adding. So I just run around like this, and these will be connecting the dots once I click save. So I can go like this, and I can add a waypoint, and then it'll go back to the starting point. I'll click save, and I'll go back and save it, and it says cloning success. And so my CPC should start wherever my first waypoints were, which I've already added, and he'll do that path that I just walked.
That's so fun. I know I was been playing around with that. It's like once I finally figured out how to do it, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I keep going in there. I've reset it a couple times. And how long do the clones, I think I asked you this before, but how long do the clones stay in there for this instance, or for
Well, so we're deciding that. It actually turned out to be a way more successful endeavor than we thought. We thought it was a fun feature to fill up the space, but actually people love customizing themselves, and it's a great opportunity to highlight other content and creations. Mm-hmm. So we want to figure that out. Right now, they're not going away. Do we gamify it where you have to get a certain level in our MMO that unlocks the machine for you? And then you can see, understanding that, knowing when you see a CPC that they have continually come back to the scene, their spotty Wi-Fi. He came in and hung out with us, and he created his own CPC. It's kind of cool. So right now they're not going away, but we're trying to figure out the best approach of continuing creativity while enhancing or enabling a reoccurring opportunity for you to come to the scene, which gets into our second leg, which is the MMO. Mm-hmm. And so Mease, I think if you want to give a brief overview quickly of the MMO, and then we can fast travel to the Dune Punks.
Totally. So with the gamification, it's actually going to start off pretty much the beginning when people first come in. They're going to have the ability to start through our quests. And so our initial quests, we're going to be launching with 5 quests. And these various quests are going to be a variety of different things. We're going to have one that's kind of like an introduction that welcomes people to the hub, and that shows people the different dApps, the 8 different centers kind of that we just introduced you to. And so that's kind of the first quest. And so that's kind of just a general introduction and just intro to Angzaar. And so that opens up our storyline. And then we continue that storyline through these next 4 quests. And so through these next 4 quests, or the second and third part of those quests, out of the 5, we have 2 different factions. And so the Dune Punks are for quest 2 and 3. And so we have 2 different individual factions in our scene that have their own headquarters. They're going to be visually implemented, and they're going to be outside of the hub, and we'll go over those a little later on. And so the Dune Punks, you're going to have an introduction to them. and get to know, a little bit about who they are, what they are, and maybe some of the characters within them as well. And so what we're going to do is, as the players learning these things, we're going to be integrating some gamification and some different things while we're introducing them to the NPCs and to the factions and the reputation system that we have in here. And so we're going to have some stuff from like mini games. We're going to have some resource stuff, just like Lastrum covered earlier, to where maybe we have some crafting and stuff like that in the future that we'll take on in the smithery or the smithy. And then we have two more, the quests 4 and 5, which is going to highlight more of the cyberpunks. And we're going to highlight some additional gamifications there as well, and open up the storyline to the cyberpunks and tell a little bit about their background and what they're doing here, maybe how they got here, and all of those kinds of things, and what their interactions are like, and what maybe their differences are with the rival or other competing factions with the Dunepunks. And in addition to that, so we have those two factions, and then we also are going to have another faction, which is Angzaar. And so Angzaar itself will have its own faction and reputation system. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have, once the players complete these quests, pretty much that's just going to be like a basic intro to the gamification. And then, we're going to have additional repeatability things for the mini games. We're looking at something like activities or tasks that can be repeated on like a daily or weekly basis. And we're looking at adding reward systems for pretty much all the three major things Lastrum covered for you guys earlier, which was like the MMO gamification, the marketplace, and then the content creators. So we're looking for those three different categories. We're looking for some gamification maybe to make it more interesting, and some reward systems as well. And so some of them will be independent, but we are looking for ways tie them all into Angzaar, the lore of Angzaar, and just everything from the looks and everything else. And so just a whole bunch of different things really going into the experience and to create the lore, the background, and really a deeper environment than just what's visually seen, which is incredible.
Let's fast travel. Let's pull up our settings from the top right. And the map is always selected first. And let's fast travel over to the Dunepunk markets, which are the outskirts of the Dunepunk HQ.
Yeah, this guy's new.
And this is the Dunepunk headquarters. So again, Dunepunks and Mease, help me identify them. They're like, think of the movie Dune, think of the Sand People. They're, Mad Max style, something in that vein, not necessarily heavy tech driven like the cyberpunks, but have form and function in the things they do. And so, Acrhonomous was just still working on this design and can bring us up to the HQ and show us all the awesome features.
Yeah, sure. So, getting back to the Dunepunk as a people and how this structure came about, really it's an amalgam of a ton of different inspirations, but, thinking about the people and how they are, how they live, how they design, how they would dwell in this environment, like Lastrum was saying, they're less tech dependent, maybe a bit more mechanical or innovative in some ways because of their lack of dependency on like automating things, for example, that the cyberpunks might do. So it's apparent in the structure of how it's put together. It's, architecturally, it's very expressive of its intention. It has, in my mind, it has to kind of look like it could exist, but I've never seen anything like this built in reality. So that's where the fun part is kind of bridging that gap and finding a way to kind of make these mechanisms come to life that brings you into the experience. But if you take the elevator up, there's two primary areas. There's two ways up as well. So you can get up the analog way, the more Dunepunk way, trying to parkour your way up, which, we have some gamifications possibly coming that I may or may not be able to talk about. So I'll just leave it there. But once you're up, it's a simple 3x3 grid, essentially, with 4 rooms in the corners and sort of a cross or like Greek cross intersection where you arrive and you can go anywhere around there. So in these different rooms, we just want to make it feel lived in by a real faction. So one of them will be like a barracks. We're going to have a laboratory for like some R&D work. There's going to be like storage areas and different areas that we will bring into the quest line and then the narratives and into the game play over time. So this is really just the structure as it exists. It'll continue to be refined. There's no decor, anything really beyond the architectural components right now. But one thing I do want to talk about real quick on the art style is at a high level, I think we're all aware that Decentraland has some of the higher limitations. And in some case, that is something that we've always had to keep in mind from day one. So when it comes to defining the art style, part of what makes this scene run so efficiently as it does currently is that everything is in one mega estate. So if you travel, there's no load times. And in order to pull that off, I believe our max cap is like 300 megabytes. So when it comes to texturing and doing all these custom modeling aspects, something that has really led the art style in this process is figuring out how to sort of pack in the texture work and pull off all of this at such a grand scale. So you'll notice that a lot of the textures are either like really efficient, seamless maps or gradients. And that's how we're able to pull off sort of this synchronous, the art style really without getting too, we're not doing any light baking, although we would love to. It's just a time and data limitation on our side. So
yeah, I mean, I could spend a whole show on that. I would love to. Maybe at some other point we could have just a side thing just to dive into just the creativity behind the actual designs. That's a whole. I would love to dive more into that. And I know you guys. I think I posted about it today. How you guys are hosting. Like anyone can come into your Discord and actually watch as you guys are modeling and creating things for this. Is that correct?
That is correct. I don't know if those times are the correct ones, just because those are actually, there's maybe a miscommunication where those were our internal art team meeting times.
Okay.
And they're set to be the same time. So we'll figure it out though. But absolutely, we jump into the live stream. There's a channel in our Discord that is live development. And at any given time, not necessarily a set time, but maybe we should. There's people in there working live and anyone's able to hop in and just watch or ask questions and provide feedback. It's been really fun.
I love that portion of, your whole Discord has been really fun to just observe and see what you guys are doing. And that kind of leads me back to another thing that I've noticed about your grant. You guys have a massive team working on this. That's probably one of the biggest teams I've ever seen. I was scrolling. I'm like, are a lot of those people from Last Slice, or is it just people just for this particular grant you brought together?
This one is all Last Slice people. And so again, the awesome nature of Last Slice is people came to join to learn, to explore something about themselves or the platform or Web3, and they have become a creative. Mease is a storyteller now and on the Quest team, right? And he was doing real estate and photography in real life. And we have people doing voiceovers, and we have people doing all kinds of different things that they might not have expected to do a year ago or a year and a half ago. The team is quite large. We're learning that. How to work with such a large team and get things done on time in a cohesive manner, making sure everyone is participating or feels included. So this first grant is all Last Slice people.
No, that's awesome. And I'm curious, I usually ask this of every team, what is a typical day for you guys in working on this grant? What does that look like? Is it change every day? Are you over, like you're saying, over time you guys are learning as a group to become more and more efficient? Could you maybe just share a general day in the life of this grant?
Yeah, if you guys want to start, you can.
I almost feel like it's kind of different for everybody, and that's what makes it a challenge from the project organization front, because a lot of us are on different time zones, do have different availabilities, and do contribute in different ways. So for us, I guess I can speak to the art team side. It's been more about creating tools and processes that empower everybody on the team, and allow them the flexibility to work and contribute at a pace that works for them. And that's something that we've definitely been learning about, like the pros and cons of as time goes on, because it does make it a bit more challenging to understand, what we're able to accomplish in a month at any given time, because everyone is different, understandably. So yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thing at all. It's just something that we've had to understand and deal with. And there's really probably not really a precedent for this kind of team structure and way of working, like through a DAO, all online. Anyways, it's a lot of fun challenges that come to it.
What about you, Mease, on your end?
Yeah, so every day is pretty different. I do a lot of writing, and so that's more of like the quest side stuff. I also do some of like a lot of the gamification. So I interact with all the different teams pretty much, and so I'm constantly going to other teams' meetings, just to make it easier for them, and then so I can listen in, so I know what's going on there. And just to stay on top of everything that's going on, also from the project management standpoint as well. And sometimes things change, right? So this is a process of discovery, and throughout all of this, we started writing ideas back in like September or whatever of last year, and those ideas have evolved multiple times through our discovery of just trying different things and things going different directions and new things coming out. And so, it's one of those things to where like, I was a very organized person, and I'm not saying I'm not organized. I'm a very, I like to plan things, and I like to know what's going to come up and everything else. And then, so, what I've liked for me personally is on this, this project, it's been extremely challenging in a good way, to be more flexible and to plan for a variety of situations. And so, I think that our team here has done an excellent job of coming together and trying to look at all the different potential outcomes for, a variety of different things at different points throughout this project. And, we're constantly, and we have been constantly reassessing our project every 2 or 4 weeks, and, seeing what works for us and what doesn't work, what we think, or what we thought might have been great, maybe doesn't accomplish everything that we thought it would. And so, then we go look at it again and say, hey, does it make sense to, do this as something else, or just to maybe make an upgrade to it? And every day is very different. And it's been a blast, getting to see get to work with all these different teams and get to see the different aspects of it. And really, this scene, it's 400 parcels. I don't think most people really truly understand, how big 400 parcels is. What's funny is like it's massive from a creator development standpoint. At the same time, like it's maybe compared to video games and other things, it's almost not. And so it's very interesting, working with those 3 different tenants. Kind of the Lastrum was pointing at in the beginning, which is going back to the marketplace functionality, to the quests, and the gamification, and then the creators. And so, that's those are the highlights, those are the important things, and that's kind of what we take into account for everything. And our goals are to make those 3 different categories as best as we can for our scene. That's what I've got.
Yeah, it sounds like you have an incredible team, and what you guys are doing is like whenever you watch like productive and innovative teams, it's like that reassessment, that pivot, all those things are so essential to growing and creating the best possible project. And it's wonderful to see from you guys, and that flexibility and learning to roll with the changes, right? It's like that's how you get really interesting like advances, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know how much time we have. I did want to just spend like 10 minutes to wrap it up on the community stuff as well.
Go for it.
But just sort of tying that loose end of working on change and progress over a project time period, it's been really nice but challenging where if somebody has an idea or a community member has an idea, we have the ability to do it. No one's telling us no. There's no brand package that's 185 pages long of color schemes and hex codes and font files and things like that telling us what we can or can't do. And we loved and appreciate and really grinded on brand activations and try to make those the best possible. But now we have an opportunity, and this is where it's challenging, is, you know, we've got tasks for the week, and, you know, Canessa said, I would love to trigger emotes on my CPC. I said, well, dang it, I'm on the couch last night, it's Sunday, and I'm starting to program in emotes, you know, so it's fun to have that flexibility, but it's also a challenge to sort of stay on task for the main things, because the main thing can be whatever we want it to be. So that's what's really cool. And that's kind of getting into where I'm at right now, which is some of the mini games to wrap up the second tenet of the project. You know, we have these reoccurring options. A lot of games are like grinding games, if you will, and so we don't really have anything. We love those other games. Those fit a specific need in Decentraland. We wanted to do something different, so we're gamifying the grinding, and instead of, like, you know, killing items and packaging items and building things from those items, we're doing different things. One of them being a bite runner. So if you play Grand Theft Auto, playing any other type of snatch and grab or delivery package game, this is what we have. And this is sort of in super alpha mode right now. But if I click on this object, and again, this will be either in the cantina or in an HQ, you should start the bites, and these bites will be scattered all over the scene. And you'll have a certain time period greater than 60 seconds in this test version to go and click on a bite, and it gets attached to you and you bring it back. Seems pretty simple. However, it's multiplayer enabled out of the box. So if Mease starts this bite runner game on his end, he will see his boxes, I will see my boxes, but when he picks up a box, I will see a box in front of him. So think of how to gamify that. Maybe I come in, and if I have a special power up, and that power up allows me to freeze Mease in position so that he can no longer complete his task. So all of these games will be reoccurring, where you can come back and come back and come back. And maybe your leveling up allows you to hinder other people from playing those types of things in the act.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting.
Like free stag style, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of little mini games that we have that will be available to multiplayer, but also available to just the individual, and it all rolls up into the quests and the factions and things like that. So that's just a little teaser of what's to come. Again, they'll be scattered all over the place, which kind of turns into the third leg, scattered all over the place. You notice a pretty vast area, but I've actually already walked halfway across it from over there. So as Mease mentioned, it feels vast, but it also gets small pretty quickly. One thing we've added is the walls. Okay, so you should be able to climb up on these walls. And so what we're doing is we're going to have these marketplace tents. The third tenet is content creation and community creation. So what we want to do is give everybody a space to highlight whatever they want to highlight. And we're starting off with Decentraland NFTs. So wearables and emotes, names, land, whatever you want to showcase in your little tent, you can. And you can sort of see on my screen here, this is Stony Eyes. What we did for Fashion Week as a proof of concept was cluster all of these together in just this like honeycomb fashion over here, which we've removed the structure GLB, and let people come in and out of these spaces and view the content for that creator. We're, again, expanding on that functionality, allowing Stony Eye to maybe link out to a world server. Maybe they don't have a CPC running around, so you can come and fast travel right to Stony Eye's tent, go in there, see what they have for sale, whatever's most recent, and they have control over their tent. And so they can showcase what they want to sell. They can showcase the world server, maybe link out to something. We're going to expand it to maybe gamify, and it's on our roadmap. I always say maybe because we don't want to say too much out, but change the interior of your tent based on how much you've been participating in the scene.
Nice.
So,
like that.
Just to highlight quickly, you can walk into these tents and you can go into somebody's area of their creation, like Rooston. I can walk in here and you can see all of his stuff that will show up. We've disabled this functionality for now as we're working on other items, but there'll be a wearable avatar pod in here that has all the items just like we saw in the wearable store, with click features, rotation features, drill down features, all of the information of whatever Rusan's items are in this tent.
And how will they be able to actually edit it? Like, is it within the world itself?
Yeah, like... so it's all in the world. We want people to stay in the world. I believe my tent is right here.
Cool.
So when I walk in, this little box shows up. This will be some form of a fun GLB. When I click on it, I can choose. I have a UI menu of how I want to change my items. I can use anything from my wallet that's for sale on the marketplace, or I can add custom items for now.
Very cool. Yeah, I was wondering about that from last time. Like, how do people actually make changes? And if they want to add like other decor, like GLB, like 3D models in here, and that's possible as well, or just
we're going to gamify that. So we're going to have basically skinned versions of these, and you can choose of what kind of template. And then we're going to have creator contests. Maybe we run a contest saying, here's the Blender template, come up with the best. We'll have the community vote on it, and that will be the next skin available.
No, I love that.
So those are going to be scattered around this Dune Punk building over here. So we've got the Dune Punk HQ, and then again, think of like Star Wars marketplace, a huge outdoor flea market, swap meet. All of these tents are just going to be scattered everywhere, all around here, and that you can kind of come up and walk around.
Oh, and so any community member can request, right, to have a tent for now? That's how you
we had really good turnout, and what we're doing is we're modularizing the whole concept where we don't need it to be manual. We're just going to have these available, and you can walk up to an empty one and reserve it.
Very cool.
The flip side of the Dune Punks, which we just put a secondary model over here in placeholder, is the Cyberpunk. Think super dystopian, Blade Runner, tons of neon, hard edges, sort of dirty, grungy, dark. That's going to be a big tower right here. And instead of tents being in the outskirts, they're going to be little Dune Punk fashion stores, little tiny micropods that you walk into. So a user will be able to choose, hey, I want my place to be over in the Dune Punks, or I want to be in the Cyberpunk, maybe level 3 of the tower, whatever.
I love them both. I want to hang out.
Right, and I guess that's the point, right? Is we're giving the option to the players if they want something less technical. And the idea is that hopefully these will both, whatever module that you choose. We're still figuring out the exact system and how many and all that, but you'll be able to, change locations possibly, or change unit types possibly, or have different templates for each unit type too. So should bring a lot of player customization and fun into the scene.
No, definitely. And I wanted to jump back to one thing we talked a little bit about earlier, is about the whole grant process for you guys. And I always like to hear your experience with that, and maybe some tips for community members wanting to jump in and possibly create a grant, considering also things have shifted a lot and the grants program and changed. What kind of tips would you guys offer people now wanting to come in and start contributing?
Mease, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So number one, I just would like to say that, I just want to reiterate, and just so anyone who's watching, that when we applied for this grant, that the DAO, the process was a little different back then. So it's definitely different today than when we went in. We only think I needed like 8 or 9 million votes, for our grant here, which now I think would take like 12 million. In addition to that, some other changes, I think that as far as the grant categories, that now there's like individual categories, and all those categories have caps. So it's a little more complicated than when we got in. But that process, so the beginning, one of the biggest things is coming up with all the ideas, right? So brainstorm, write all your ideas on paper and come up with as many ideas as possible. Write out like, I don't even know, 5+ pages or something of information, and then see what you have there and start to break it down into things that make sense organization wise, and try to figure out what the value is that you want to add and bring to Decentraland. Right now I'm not familiar myself personally with all the different categories. That's something that I would need to go back and learn about myself, so I can't really speak on that. But I would say that think of something that's not in Decentraland. That's something when we were going through this process, and even really the last like 12 months, I've actually been talking to Lastrum and other people, and I think I even drew up like a list like over a year ago or 18 months ago that was like a list of everything I wanted to see eventually in Decentraland, and it was like 3 pages long. And unfortunately, I've tried a lot of different ways to maybe get some of those things to happen, and they just never really happened. And so, this grant process, we got together, a large group of people, and we all had ideas just like I had, and things that everyone wanted to have in Decentraland that had not been maybe done before or in the way that we wanted to. And so, or done like in combination with something else. And so, I think that that's kind of key, or at least for me. I would like to see things, or I like to bring, new things to the table and things to the next level, hopefully as well. And so that's what I'm looking to do. And if I was looking to vote for other people or wanting other people to come in and bring new experiences, I would want them to bring, very interesting, new, different things that haven't been done before, that add value, that, I don't know, that really just cater to all the things of Decentraland, whether it's like the DAO, the Decentraland as a whole, the marketplace, the community, all of it. And so, the more that anything can tie into all those things, the 3 tenets, once again, like, we're doing the community with the gamification and the marketplace. And so, those were 3 things that we felt were key for our project that we wanted to have. And so I think direction is very important as well for people. And, you got to be prepared to have delays as well. And the process, to be frank, I mean, we were I remember being so excited when we wrote up the process, and then I was so nervous for, I don't even remember, it's like maybe 2 weeks or something after it got put out, just because, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if we could actually get 9 million votes or 8 million votes. And we did. We traveled, we wrote up our stuff, and I think we had to resubmit maybe from our first grant. I can't remember if we just updated it first before we did that. But it's a learning process, I think, between ourselves and everyone. And that's all I have really, I think, to say on that.
Yeah, the grant process is interesting. We were a development studio. We were nervous about the community reaction because we've been paid by other projects, other brands, huge brands like Samsung, to activate in the space. And we were nervous how the community would react to it. But I think if you're approaching the space from the right perspective, forget everybody else, your perspective and your true motives will shine through, and those people that can see that will vote appropriately. I always harp on creativity and curiosity. I have made that my lifestyle. I left a life of commercial real estate to dive fully into creativeness and curiosity. And it's led me to hanging out with a bunch of anonymous people on the internet inside a virtual world, getting paid a lot of money to build out these experiences. So now we get the chance to do it ourselves, not because we got paid our grant tier, but because we've wanted, like Mease said, to see these things happen. Or we're talking about, let's have NPCs be fun and interactive in the scene and fill up the space. And then we said, what if we called them this? And we just riff and we're creative, and we have the skill set to make it happen. So I think if anything you can try to make shine through in any grant or anything you do in this space is to have the right motive. And I think those right motives are creativity and curiosity. If you're not one or two or both of a majority of those 2 types of approach, it's probably going to fail. There's a lot of money to be made, but you need those 2 sort of guiding factors in any decision you make, at least my opinion, in this space.
Yeah, I totally, completely agree. And it's like you were saying, the community's gonna know if you're full of it. Like
Yep.
if they'll see your past work or your past contributions. And to me, that's pretty much what's led my life too. That seeking out the creative, what you guys were just speaking about, having the group you have. It's such a blessing to have a group of people you can brainstorm and be creative with. I mean, I think some people don't realize the value in that. I see it as like one of the most valuable things there is, to have that group and be like, and bounce these ideas. And I mean, just that group brain, I'm sure you come up with so many crazy fun. Like, and it's play, right? Play to me is another key component. If it's not playful, creative, and curious, all those elements are just such key elements to making. And it's you can tell by the build, and you can tell by the people's energy if it's something they're really passionate about, and kind of it's pretty clear, at least in Decentraland to me, since day one. But no, love that.
Yeah, and just to wrap up on our end with the community side, the third tenet, we've talked about the community tents, creator tents, highlighting those creators. We have the CPCs, but we also have these 8 individual areas inside the hub where there's the trees on a couple and some other 3D models on the other. And so, we want to activate these. We've got Knights of Antrom. We don't want to. They're a game. They're another game in Decentraland. That doesn't mean that we can't exist as well, and we want to highlight them. We think that is successful as well. So KOA has a little guy. Has talked to him, and then you can teleport to that video game. We've got Wisher Vodka. We've got a welcome screen from the CBD Discord with Oddjob and Canessa. So you can come over here and you can have a message. A video message be read to you or viewed to you. So all of these little showcase pods, we call them, are sort of available for people to activate. We've got this crazy little machine here by Cyclopa, a little reflecting machine. This one's empty, obviously. We've got the CPC machine. We're also highlighting Vroomway. And so these will change over time, and we want to come up with a system where people can, reserve these and highlight other content in Decentraland, because we want this to be the hub, the place to come to for everything. And so we think integrating the community, not just on ideas, but on their content as well, is going to be super attractive. We're not getting any extra money for doing this, but the platform is getting recognition. The content gets better. More people get involved. More people stay. More people want to come back. And so that's what we are trying to capture.
Yeah, and like you're saying, more people want to collaborate, adding to that group of like creativity. That'll make it even better. I love that. I wasn't sure what those spots were, how they were reserved, but I figured it would be similar to your tent. Like, people get them for a while. That's really cool.
Yeah, the last thing was we have in progress a big Coliseum. I believe it's going in one of these corners. And so this will be a huge event space. We're going to do PvP battle. We're going to do, it's going to be MMO battles, but also like for stage or concerts or people want to rent out and perform. We're going to have little breakaway areas where you can do live streams, or the whole Coliseum, and let people reserve and use that for their space. I was flying over here earlier, and we have this was a rock, paper, scissors. They wanted to do rock, paper, scissors here. So we threw in their 3D model, and we let them do rock, paper, scissors in here. And there's like a group standing around watching rock, paper, scissors. So, not necessarily always dropping in 3D objects, but renting out the spaces available. So again, using all of this space is another highlight of the grant process, where we are the only ones so far, and the first ones to take over a plaza. So on the map, this is the plaza just south of Genesis Plaza. All of these other ones, they might be replicated. There's 2 Gamer Plazas, there's 2 Soho Plazas, there's 1 Genesis Plaza, there's a Forest Plaza times 2. So there's nothing really going on here. So we wanted to activate for the community.
I love that. So one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you guys think are some of the biggest challenges facing Decentraland in the next couple of years?
Ooh.
I know, that's
Well, Mease and Lastrum will know that I have some strong opinions, because I'm also across multi-platforms. So I will be as nice as possible and just be candid and say that, there's a lot more competition now. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the first mover advantage is starting to go away, and maybe some of the difficulties that I see the Decentraland platform as a whole facing when it's not necessarily compared or pitted up against these other platforms, because I believe there's space for everybody to exist if you have a good product. But there are how to even put this? Like, there's a lot of changes that are changing the way that Decentraland inherently works. And, in my opinion, some of them are not maybe in the benefit of the platform as a whole, but without getting too specific, just supporting, I know, maybe I'll stop there. Let Mease and Lastrum take over.
Yeah. So as far as can you state the question? It's like, what is the future of Decentraland, or what in the next couple of years, or
what do you see some of the biggest challenges facing Decentraland in the next
Fractilian? Sorry.
wait,
The
hold on.
problems
Sorry.
that you see
Yeah.
the future of the platform facing?
Yeah, exactly. What do you see some of the biggest
Okay.
challenges? Yeah, facing Decentraland.
So I definitely think, just like our economist said, is new incoming competition. There has been new metaverses coming out for pretty heavily for 2 years maybe now, but some of those have been gaining. They've learned from their mistakes. They've been building and gaining traction, and some of them are starting to build their own communities. And I think some of these newer ones are building their bases. And I think that it's going to be, for Decentraland, or what's going to be important is a few different things over the next couple of years. Number one, I think that the use of funds through the DAO to expand and create and bring in new content and other things, and allow creators and all these different things to build out and expand Decentraland. I think that is one of the key things that probably should and maybe needs to happen. And I know that's difficult because we're in a bear market right now, and there's just mana's maybe not anywhere near where it was at the top of the bull market when things were doing amazing. And so with the recent changes in the DAO and everything else, with making it, I would say, harder pretty much, and more convoluted and complicated for people to apply for grants and to get grants. And so I think that may need to change if the competition makes it easier or better for other people to do so on their platforms. I kind of see some of these things as like a barrier to entry for Decentraland. And so, one of the things that I'm looking at is, how can I make Decentraland better? And so when we're going through like this project and other things, I'm always thinking about like, what can we do to like improve the overall Decentraland experience and people in our scene and everything else. And so, that's what we're looking at is just iterating and creating new things little by little, and adding them in, and raising the bar, for the builders, the community, and everything else. And so, my hope is that Decentraland will continue to be a place to attract creators, and that they will enable those creators to build the amazing scenes and experiences and everything else that really make Decentraland a destination, versus just another metaverse, which I don't think it will be. But so that's what I'm looking at. It's about enabling the creators and bringing the creators in so they can build the stuff, because we're still early. I mean, I really think that we were way earlier than most people thought we were when Meta came out and they said, hey, we're changing our name to Facebook said we're changing our name to Meta, and everything's about the metaverse. And then we went through all that. And so, I think people finally realized the tech really wasn't quite there for them. Decentraland, I think that mobile is going to be huge potentially in the future, and maybe even VR or AR integration or whatever it is it may be within Decentraland, because I think that some of these other platforms, they may have an easy integration with those things here in the upcoming year or two. And with upcoming competition from like other side, Yuga Labs, maybe, and other things, I think it's important to have some key experiences. And so when I'm looking at other projects like other side, I think I'd heard maybe that they're trying to come out with like 10 different scenes or gamifications or something maybe when they launch. I don't know if that's true or not. But to me, it makes sense for Decentraland to try to build out or have, something similar to that, is, maybe something like 5 to 10 different, incredible, amazing, and, large and in-depth experiences throughout the world. And so I think that, the next process for Decentraland over the next 2 years is to build those out.
Yeah, I'll just be quick and say, like, I've been in Decentraland for a long time. I've worked at the foundation. I no longer work at the foundation. I am the biggest Decentraland proponent, but I will also call a spade, and I've seen a lot of changes that I sort of disagree with, and I think a lot of it has to come down to communication. I think the foundation says they're part of the community, but they don't communicate with the community. And it's probably the same thing with the DAO as well. Lack of communication everywhere. And I've talked about the overlap with the foundation's roadmap, what the community is working on, what the DAO grant proposals and requests and things are. And there's not visibility across all three. And so sometimes there's double duty. And that's not great use of funds, use of time, use of effort. In addition, there's also lack of understanding in the same regard. On the flip side of double duty, things aren't getting done that the community wants, or the community hasn't asked for certain things that have been done. And so I think the foundation is at a very crucial point of growth, and you need to recognize what the community wants and grow that. The community also needs to understand what the foundation is trying to build and how to grow that. And so just to concrete it, no one asked for world servers. The community didn't ask for that. The community, there's a barrier to entry into scene development and scene previewing. And people used to use a third-party service called Heroku to highlight their scenes for free without owning land. That free service went away. And so the ruse is that's why world servers were created. But no one, as a landowner, no one asked for that. People just wanted an easier way to deploy scenes. Was this the best approach? I don't know. Now, people might not know, was this or was this not on the roadmap of the foundation? Again, there's lack of communication and clarity. So the community, landowners, people that invest millions of dollars in land now are basically worthless because you don't need to be a part of Genesis City to spin up an experience. And so what is the product of Decentraland from all three of those tenants, from the foundation, from the DAO, and from the community? What is the product? Because I think that's gotten lost in the past 2 years. And that's why you see the rise of HyperFi and other metaverses that make it easier because they listen to the community and it's easier for the community to get on board. And there's, maybe it's so open of what their roadmap is that seems even more clear than what the foundation is secretly working on and not communicating with the community and or the DAO. And so I think that's my biggest complaint and criticism is lack of communication and this sort of mini gaslighting that they're part of the community. I don't know. I don't want to speak for everybody, but do they participate in the platform? Do we know who they are? Are they, what are they working on? Are we asking for those features? And so that's my biggest problem is I think lack of communication going forward with the three tenets of the stakeholders needs to be aligned so that we can succeed, because I believe Decentraland is in the best position from all of the facets that it has, all the pieces to succeed.
Yeah, if I were to add just a little bit to my original non-finished answer, is just, going off of what you guys said, I completely agree. Communication and governance is huge, and that drives the underlying system of how everything works, flows in and out, and incentivizes everybody within the Decentraland world. And there's sort of a divide right now between, I guess, in my opinion, between the creators and the players, because creators want to create for players and players want to play and have fun and experience what is created. But if it's getting harder for creators to obtain funding to create, then it's just going to continue, in my opinion, to limit more of the content that gets put out, which will stifle our growth as a community. And, I've been around for 5+ years in Decentraland, so I'm both its biggest fan and its biggest I want it to improve on these things at the same time. So, I guess that's my point, is there's something maybe that's wrong currently about the incentivization system of this decentralized world. And I'm not smart or involved enough to know exactly what it is or how we could fix it as a community. But all in all, I do feel like, we want to be using the community funds to fund more content, and the content will bring users, and the users will get creators creating more. And it's just this sort of like self-feeding Ouroboros circle, if we can get it right.
And something, I think it's perfect. Alex said it perfectly. And something I just want to add on is, you asked me earlier, Fractillions, about like something about the process and everything else. Well, we were worried, or I was worried, about us even getting the grant in the first place when we got it. With the current changes that have been made, let's say we were coming in today or whatever it is and wanting to do the exact same grant proposal that we had made, would we even be able to get it today? Would we be able to get all the funding that we wanted and needed, to get done for this project? Would this project even exist today? I don't think that it would underneath the new system. I don't know.
Fez, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
No, I would love to hear your take on this too. I mean, this is something I think about a lot as well, and I would love to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, well, what to say here? Everything that you just mentioned, and there's a lot of preoccupation along the community about the recent decisions and the lack of let's not say transparency, but as you mentioned, the communication between the stakeholders and that. So my first take on this is that I think that's not going to be a good answer, but it's an ongoing process. So this thing with the grants and the budgeting and the different categories and that for this quarter and the next one, I mean, it's going to be like the first and the second iteration. So I say that we should, or that the grantees that are currently executing their projects, it's not that they shouldn't worry about what will happen looking forward, but it's something that's continuously being reviewed by the squad, by the governance squad, by the committee, and there's kind of some back and forth with the community. So it's not going to stay like this, I think. But yeah, it's just like I'm saying, right? It's a first and a second iteration, and this is going to evolve. Don't know if that evolution is going to be better for you particular or for other grantees, but this is an ongoing process. But what I can say about the back and forth and the communication between the foundation, the DAO, and the rest of the stakeholders is that, I 100% agree with you. There should be other mechanisms for exchanging and accessing information. And that's something that we are also working on with the whole facilitation squad and with the governance squad. So, for example, we are working right now on an RFI process, request for information process. I don't know if you know about that, but that's something that we are thinking on to cut that lack of information or that asymmetry of information between the foundation and the DAO. And we're looking towards creating and building new mechanisms, new transparency mechanisms for stabilizing the relation between the different stakeholders. But I can totally relate what you're worrying about the grants and also the relationship between the different stakeholders.
Oh, thank you guys all for that. I mean, this is something we could all dive into for hours, I think, as well. I always think about the issues with onboarding users and devs, retention of users and devs, and like you're saying, communication, sharing. And I mean, one of the reasons we do things like this is for candid, conversations about how to help and how to build and how to learn and grow together. And it's not something that happens overnight, but I think by showing what teams are doing with what they have right now really helps to hopefully inspire others to, continue to grow and continue to come here and actually contribute and do things. But it's definitely a challenge. And so I also agree with what you guys are saying.
I was just gonna add on, this is the first plaza redevelopment not done by the foundation. So, the foundation has members, however many members on their team working on the platform infrastructure and making it the best it can be while creating fun content. But there are no people dedicated to ongoing creation or support for the 9 plazas. I mean, think about that. 9 times 400 is 3,600 parcels that are just sitting there, not being utilized or supported by anybody on a daily basis. No one is sitting there thinking how they can improve or change or to redevelop 3,600 parcels. Pretty crazy.
They now will be from you guys. I mean, this is.
And so that's part of it. We wanted to show like what happens if you give a development studio, we'll call ourselves like we're less than an indie development studio. Imagine you give an indie development studio or like a single A, triple A studio comes in here and says, here's 400 parcels. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I think, and that's what we're trying to highlight is the opportunity. When you have 400 parcels with a competent group of individuals that have a proven track record, what can flourish? Let's take some of that off of the foundation. They don't need to hire, a team of individuals to manage 400 parcels to 3,600. The grant, the DAO, that whole system can support these other studios coming in and restructuring these plazas without having any voting power or anything, and just having the development rights to make amazing content for the platform. So that's our sort of overarching like meta vision, is to be the example and to hopefully continue to set the example of how to redevelop these plazas.
Well, yeah, I think you guys are doing an incredible job, and it's been wonderful again joining up with you guys, and I want to thank you all for taking the time and spending it here and sharing with the community your progress. And I mean, it's just even in the last, when was the last time we met up? Like a month and a half ago, not even that long ago, to see the growth and transformation and all the added developments you guys have done. So it's inspired me, so I'm sure everyone else watching as well will be inspired. But if with that, if you guys have any closing remarks, or I would love for you guys to share, and then and then we'll end it with that.
Yeah, I mean, all I'd say is that I'm very happy and blessed to be in the position that we're in, and I hope I speak for everyone when I say that I've grown as a person. I've grown friendships already beyond where they were at before this. Just everything that goes into this project has been an awesome experience so far, and I know that we have endless ideas, and we have so much more that we want to do than we can squeeze in even these 6 months with this first grant. So who knows what happens after, but I know a lot of us would love to continue to develop this out if the community responds well, which we sincerely hope they do.
Totally. And I feel the exact same way. I'm just so thankful and grateful that this opportunity was available and that we were able to get it in the time frame that we did. Like I said, I don't know if we would be able to get this grant today. And so myself, as someone who had a photography and real estate background and having the ability to do writing and gamification on this, is Decentraland's the only place I can think of or know of that would allow that. And so while I may have said some things that maybe the DAO isn't doing the best, they are doing a great job at the same time, and I think in getting this out there. And I'm really just appreciative for this opportunity. And so my hope is that at the end of this, is that the community and the DAO and whoever else may see all of the true just hard work, effort, creativity, and everything that went into this, because it's truly a passion project. Everyone who's working on this is just they're not working on this like it's a job. They're working on this like it's their love. So I want you all to know that, and hopefully you can see that throughout the scene.
Yeah, I mean, they both said it. We're here to be fun and creative, and we would love to continue to activate this plaza on an ongoing basis through the community. We feel like we are a part of the community. We come from the community, and the things we create are going to be for the community. And so we all have harsh criticisms and realities of where we are at today, but we all agree that Decentraland is the best place to be, whether it's your creativity, your curiosity, your entertainment, whatever you're looking for. Inward or outward, we feel like this is the best metaverse experience, and we want to continue to make it the best metaverse experience, sort of ongoing with the Angzaar Plaza.
Well, thank you guys again, and I just want to say it is good and healthy, I think, to criticize and to have these voices heard, and it's important for all of us to to understand whatever the community's feeling. You guys are the community, right? We're all part of this community, and it really does. Your passion and dedication shine through. So you guys are doing an incredible job, and thank you guys. And I look forward to seeing what's next for you guys. And I'm definitely going to jump in and keep playing in there and check your Discord. And for the rest of the community, I'll be posting all those links so you guys can join up and follow them.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having us, Reptilians. One quick thing. We also are receptive to hearing the community's feedback. So, if there's anything that someone that's listening to this might want to provide, definitely I would encourage them to hop in our Discord and let us know. We have channels for all that, and we're always open to listening.
So are we as facilitators. Me and Fede can say the same thing. We're in the same boat. We're grantees as well, so we're open to any feedback and how we can be better. Oh, Fede.
Awesome. Thank you again, Reptilians and Fede. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you guys.
Okay.
Okay, take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye,
Thanks, guys. Take care. See you.
Bye.